take questions up here. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Ms. Carroll?
Carol Stoughton, Palm Coast. It's about time that Mindy, wasn't picked on for the color of her house. She didn't do it on purpose. It's a gorgeous looking home. And there were other homes out there that were black, that were same color as hers for over year after year prior to her painting her house. Yet the gentleman that decided to file the complaint, his wife is a realtor, and she evidently didn't like the color, so she pushed the builder to sign a complaint. That's a sin. I just hope that you will not do this to anybody else and make them wait years and years to finally paint their house. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any further? Yes, ma'am, Miss Mindy.
I appreciate it going on this long and coming to seeing this. I just want to make a statement.
State your name, Mindy.
Mindy Melendez, the Big Blue House. So the color issue, yes, it's been going on. I've gained 2 years of my life. And it was stated at one of the meetings by one of the city council people that I broke the law. I just want to be clear. It's not a law. It's a code. It was not done on purpose. I am not that type of person. I am very a law-abiding citizen. And my house wasn't the first to be painted my color. There were houses out there way before my house color. So you see those houses, you think you can do it. And I appreciate all you guys' patience and time over this last 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any further public comment? Stand no and come forward. We'll bring it back to the council for further comments. Yes, sir. What you got?
Nothing.
I thought you pulled your mic over. No further comment. Ms. Cook, call the vote.
Vice Mayor Pontieri?
No.
Councilmember Gambaro?
Yes.
Councilmember Miller?
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan?
Yes.
Mayor Norris?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
Thank you, ma'am. We're moving on to J, resolutions. City manager? I'm sorry. City attorney?
So, Mr. Mayor, we have I-6 still to go over.
Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped. I'm sorry.
No worry. It's an ordinance of the first read. It's
Yes.
another 2025 ordinance amendment to the 2050 comprehensive plan to incorporate the water supply facilities work plan.
Yes, sir. Mr. Russell, Mr. Papa. You're fading away, Mr. Papa. You're fading away. You're losing so much weight.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Councilman. Can you hear me okay? Speak up with your manly voice, Mr. Russell.
You can use that one, Mr. Russell, if you need to.
Okay, good evening. Peter Russell, Deputy Director of the Utility. Thank you for the opportunity to present the final water supply facilities work plan for the city of Palm Coast. This is a required plan, part of our long-term planning, and it ensures that we can meet the water needs for our growing community. We did present this last week, August 12th, so this is the first reading. This work plan helps us align our land use decisions with the availability of water and ensures compliance with state planning requirements. It also integrates our planning efforts with the regional water supply plan. Okay. The water supply facilities work plan covers the full utility service area, not just the city limits, and looks ahead 20 years to ensure that we have adequate supply and infrastructure in place. Using population data and development projections, we estimate future water demand and ensure we'll have the capacity to meet it. This includes all user types. This effort ties to identifying and incorporating alternate water supply projects identified in the plan, including any conservation and reuse programs. Our most recent data shows that our average daily flows are currently trending below our original projections. This is a positive indicator, suggesting that we are operating with more available capacity than anticipated. Lower than expected flows places us in a better position to manage our system, reduce operational strain on our facilities, and maintain compliance with regulatory requirements. It also gives us added flexibility as we plan for long-term infrastructure and treatment needs. This is some of the projects that we've already accomplished that's listed in our plan. And the drinking water byproduct from water plant number 3 is blended with water plant number 1's raw water. And since the onset of that, which was April of 2011, we have saved 2.6 billion gallons of water since then. We don't discharge that into the Intracoastal Waterway anymore, and no longer. As far as Plant 2 is concerned, we recover that through lime softening, followed by microfiltration. And since we've done this, and I believe it was March 2015, we've saved 1.9 billion gallons of water that otherwise would have been discharged into one of our canals. So total, it's 4.5 billion gallons. Both projects eliminate the wasteful discharge to surface waters and recover up to about 1.9 million gallons per day. We're currently within our permit limits, but as demand grows, we'll need to evaluate additional capacity or optimize existing systems through upgrades or conservation. The plan projects being over the 11.025 million gallons per day allocation from the confined superficial and the upper Florida aquifer in 2025. This is why we are planning to request a CUP modification to increase the allocation from the superficial aquifer, or the CSA, and the fresh upper Florida aquifer by way of acquiring some wells on the Otis Stone to meet the short-term needs until the brackish water is online by 2030 as per planned. The plan identifies infrastructure needs to maintain service reliability, such as plant upgrades, transmission improvements, and storage. These are included in our CIP. Also, part of this includes the well field expansion and development as one of those infrastructure needs. So, conservation remains a key tool in stretching our supply. Continued public education and use of reclaimed water will reduce demand on our potable system. This includes potentially indirect potable reuse and aquifer storage and recovery projects. Regional collaboration ensures we'll all working towards sustainable water management. We participate in many coordination meetings and share data with surrounding jurisdictions, such as the district, the St. Johns River Water Management District. This work plan is adopted as a comprehensive plan amendment to ensure it has legal standing and is incorporated into our long-range planning framework. We've included implementation guidance and built-in tracking. The plan will be updated as conditions change or new regulatory guidance is issued. We did conduct an aquifer performance test of the brackish upper Florida aquifer. The data acquired from these tests have been modeled to determine the feasibility of receiving an allocation of brackish water in the consumptive use permit. The St. Johns River Water Management District reviewed the model and determined an acceptable allocation, and we are now in another sampling and analysis phase once monitoring wells are completed. So the amendments developed in coordination with the district, we'd like to create a policy language to be more holistic in incorporating the water supply facilities work plan and amends the infrastructure and capital improvement project elements within the plan.
And just to wrap up the last few slides of this presentation. As Pete mentioned, the language that we are proposing to be amended in the comprehensive plan has been vetted really through the Water Management District staff. And so this language, again, in part just incorporates the complete water supply facilities work plan as part of the comprehensive plan. So yes, and I'm just, and that's the extent of the change in language. Go ahead, Pete. Keep going. Yeah. So in summary, the water supply facilities work plan is there to support the growth and environmental sustainability of our water supply. We're completing this as statutorily required. We have coordinated, again, with the Water Management District on its completion and on the amendments that we're proposing. It's there, I think, more of a utilities role to help secure future funding for water supply funding. And at this time, we are recommending the approval of this amendment to the comprehensive plan. So we're here at Transmittal Public Hearing. We will be presenting this to the Planning and Land Development Regulation Board, after which we will transmit it to the various state agencies for 30-day review and come back to council in October at another public hearing for the adoption. Questions at this time?
Thank you, sir. Is this the same slide deck that you guys used the last time?
Yes, sir, it is. It
Could you
is.
go back to the population, the one with the population on it? I just want to point something out because I thought about it after the last meeting. In the city, total, 2040. If you go to 2040, you said the total population is 150,63. That's the estimate.
Yes, sir.
With those 19,000 units we have in the queue right now,
Yes, sir.
if all of those developments were to come to fruition, that would put us over 150,000 people with the ones that are in the queue. Correct?
Probably. I mean, yes. The units that are in the queue are going to occupy the people that we're projecting here. Will occupy those units that are in the queue. Not all of them. Some of them might move into an already built home and that had maybe one person, and now you have a family move in with 4 people. But again, the link between the two is that it is assumed that these population projection, the increase in our population, where are they going to live and where are they going to create that demand? They're going to create the demand from the construction of those units that are in the queue.
Yeah.
Most of them, likely. And then, of course, as I mentioned, a portion of them will occupy homes that are already built. That's where your population growth comes from.
Yeah. Well, the thing I'm trying to get at, Mr. Papa and Pete, is way back in March, when we talked about the number of houses that were not currently supported. And everybody stood up at that dais and they said, all the improvements that we are paying for, all this $500 million or so that we are investing was only for existing residents now. And we were pretty specific. We went round and round about that. They said, okay, so we're not going to have the capacity to support those 19,000 additional units. So what I'm saying is, regardless of how you frame it, semantics or whatever, we are still in a hurt lock for water, as far as I'm concerned. And it's true that it does fall on us residents, because when I moved here in 2006, 2007, we were paying like $100, $110, maybe $120 for city utility. Here we are, 2025, we're paying close to $300 for our utility. So what I'm saying is, and this is all about the cut. So, and I don't I don't want our residents to be in a perpetual state of increases every year, every other year, because it's unsustainable for most residents in the community. Am I missing something here? Am I being honest in my assessment? Council, are you being honest in my assessment?
Well, I heard you last week, Mr. Roussel and Mr. Papa, that we will have the capacity, that we're projected to have the capacity for the water because of the investments that we're making in new water wells, the exploration, our capital improvement plan that supports all that. So I'm not hearing the same thing, Mr. Mayor. Pete, if you could touch on that again, please.
I think the best way to answer that question is if you're looking at 2040, you'll notice that we're decreasing a little bit on the traditional water side, but we're increasing the alternate water supply, which would be the brackish water. And I don't have a crystal ball, so I can't exactly tell you, but I will say that we are in the investigative mode now of looking into that brackish water. And I will also mention that the brackish water, I sort of mentioned this last week, the difference between the brackish and fresh water is just the brackish water has a little bit of additional, a little more salinity to it. And the numbers are measured in total dissolved solids, which takes into consideration all the minerals like calcium, iron, magnesium, potassium, a whole bunch of other ones, the chlorides, positive, negative cations, positive cations and negative anions that are all added together. And the numbers is 1,000 milligrams per liter to 10,000 milligrams per liter would indicate a brackish water supply. Okay. Anything above that would be more compared to like seawater, which is about 30, 40,000.
Okay. And so, I think from what I remember of last week, in our discussion, it was as people move, we expand our capacity, right? And we're doing that as residents move in, we expand our capacity. But we know we have issues at high water marks or high water events. Certainly, we've got to increase our capacity to get past that. And that's what we're doing, wastewater treatment plant 1 and things of that nature. I didn't see that we had a shortfall for water in the near future, but Mr. Mayor, I guess for lack of a better term, we're doing current ops, and then with the exploration, we're planning out future ops based on the population projections that we have, and so. Do we have to address, our growing population? Sure. I mean, it's Florida. Everybody wants to live here. But I think it's a matter of prudent planning, looking at the type of water, whether it's moving from the fresh water to the brackish or something else that, we haven't considered. But for those 19,000 in the pipeline, as they develop, and I guess in another 5 years, some council down the road will address that for the current situation and also to continue future planning movement. So that's how I understand the dynamic.
Just to jump into, I think based on the capital improvement plan that we saw during the rate studies, we're doing a lot to address kind of what I see as kind of a lack of future planning in the past. Whether it was just not predicted. Obviously, nobody probably saw that our population was going to increase 30% after COVID, or could predict COVID and those regional trends of people moving down to Florida. But so it's addressing that. And then when we did our, the impact fees for utility specific wasn't part of that study because we had already, I think the previous council had raised those impact fees. But for the other impact fees, we saw how it's calculated is kind of a cost share between current residents and future residents based on our capital improvement plan. So we have a plan in place for what we need for the future, and then we cost share that out, and that's how we determine those impact fees with projections on what would come in the future. We don't know that. We use the Bieber Institute's projections. I assume that's per state statute, or it's at least industry standard for that. So these planning tools are the best tools we have at our disposal to kind of predict what's happening and then adjust our impact fees and our needs in terms of the capital improvement. So, yeah, there will, as we know, we can't use impact fees for everything. So when it's technology upgrades and refurbishment of existing structures, that's a cost for current residents. And then when it's growth related, that's a cost for future residents. So in terms of wastewater, if I recall correctly from that slide, once we get to 2028, we're well over capacity or well over our need in terms of capacity. So I think from wastewater, which is our most pressing need right now, we have taken the steps necessary that in 2 to 3 years, the city should be in a very good spot in comparison to where it was last year during the hurricane. And we've already taken steps with the appropriations to try to get some one-off projects and things like that. So I think we're working towards that, and it's just going to take a couple of years, and then we will be in a very healthy spot, I think, moving forward, Mr. Mayor.
And I think it's a fair question, Mr. Mayor, because I get that question all the time.
Well, the thing that most concerns me is back in March, it's like we need to do all this money, and it was specifically stated that that's not accounting for the 19,000 units. But now you're saying with the upgrades, we're going to have capacity for those 19,000 units. But what gets me is the residents are paying for all those upgrades, but through a 38% increase over 3 years. So that's what I'm getting at. I just want people to realize that impact fees and growth really don't pay for itself, because if you look back in time, and you can call it piss poor planning if you want, but from when we moved here in 2006 to now, that is a one-fold increase at a minimum for all residents in this community.
Well, so just to kind of address that, when we talk about inflation, if you take 3% per year and add it to the cost of doing business, things double and triple over 20-year time spans. That's how it works. I had a couple residents talking about what their bill would be if we were to increase these rates, and I showed them just what their bill was 20 years ago and added 3% per year, and it got them very close to those new rates. So what we did above that is not much more than what normal inflation would get to. And so, I know it feels like a lot when you kind of nostalgically look back in the past and say how much stuff costs. Gas was 79 cents a gallon at one point when I was a young man. Lots of things were cheaper.
You ain't that old. You don't remember 79 cents.
I do, yeah. In the 90s, yeah.
Oh, I remember. Don't go there. No.
But it's just a reality of the world we live in. And then on top of that, the inflationary environment that came out of COVID really threw an extra wrench into everything. That's above and beyond what normal inflation would have done.
I just don't want us to get to the place where it's like a free-for-all with more developments, especially when we're not going to be able to see them for the most part. This council's not going to be able to see them.
We're not going to see the benefits of the work we're doing, most likely.
Like 10 years from now, I don't want the next mayor or the next city council sitting here looking at, well, Mayor Norris and that council approved this back in 2025, knowing full well we didn't have enough water to support it. I just want the planners to know that it's not a free-for-all going forward.
Well, I think, Mayor, that's exactly what this plan is for. This plan is so that we can make sure we're not putting somebody else in that same position. We are setting up the infrastructure. We are planning correctly. And I think what you're referring to back in March is when we were talking about those high water days, when we were, the high water events. That's when we said, well, we don't have enough capacity on these days right now. But what this plan is doing is it's saying on your regular days, as we're looking forward, and if this is the projection of growth over time, this is what we're projecting our need to be. And so this is what we're doing to make sure that we're meeting those demands. And so I think that's what the plan does. It doesn't, obviously we could have high water events or we could have dry spells. Those are things that are not every day. You plan the best you can for those. That's why we do things like lower water structures. It's why we have backup supply and things like that. But this is for your everyday as we go forward. My only concern with this plan, I will tell you, is when, like, if you look at the 2025 population estimate right now at 107,402, we're already above that. So my concern is that we're looking at numbers that, and granted, it's only off by 3,000. Okay, we're right around 110,000. But is that getting exacerbated as we go through the years? In other words, in 2030, are we going to be 10,000 behind? In 2035, are we then 20,000? Because then your numbers start to matter, right? 3,000, not so much. But as that nexus grows, it becomes more of a concern. So my cautionary tale is, I don't think we have to worry about it with this council. But for future councils, when you approve density variations and increases, when you change industrial to residential, you are affecting ability to plan like this. You are having a direct effect on city staffs and city councils' ability to plan for capacity and to plan for infrastructure improvements and budgets. So to me, that's the bigger picture that's important to impart on this council and on future councils.
Yeah, my biggest thing, Mr. Papa and Pete, is I don't want a staff member being asked a question, well, do we have capacity? And they say, with a chuckle and say, well, on paper, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear on paper, best case scenario, if the heavens open up and shine down on us. I want us to say, yes, this is true, factual numbers that we have. So I hope everybody can understand.
Mr. Mayor, I did have one additional question. In the last slide, you said transmittal. So again, this is the same process was it the Department of Commerce?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The process will be similar to any other comprehensive plan amendment.
And that's why it goes up. They'll give us notes, we'll come back, and then we'll make the updates. We'll review the updates, and then at that point, that's why it's October that we'll do the second read.
Yes, sir. And I think they are comfortable with the numbers we presented to them. They've seen the water supply facility. And just to help with, again, this is it's static for now, right? It's document in that the projections we have in there are there. But as Pete mentioned, when the Water Management District does update the regional supply work plan, we are required by law to update our projections. And
how often do they do that? Is that every 5 years as well?
About every 5 years, yes, sir.
Okay.
Any further discussion from council?
Mr. Mayor, move approval of this amendment to the 2050 comprehensive plan to incorporate the water supply facilities work plan.
Thank you, sir. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any further discussion from the dais?
Sure.
We'll open it up for public comment. Yes, Ms. Jeannie.
Jeannie Duarte. It's not necessary for us to have all our growth all right now at once. Our projections are not based on facts for the future. We know that real estate is not selling like it used to. Things are changing. You're claiming scarcity where there is none currently. I understand the definition of brackish. Last week it was more of a question. However, we only have 3 minutes to talk up here, and it kind of runs into each other. But the brackish mix that I understand also includes gray water and wastewater through our wastewater treatment plants. They fail to mention that, but it is all over the place. It's on your website. It's all over the place where it shows that you're including wastewater from the wastewater treatment plant. They cannot guarantee our city's health and safety 100%, and by doing so, so I would say no. You can't do this to people. You cannot add brackish, wastewater, gray water together as the mix, as you put it, for future use. We are not in need of that. We need to focus on our wastewater treatment plant and its ability to hold. You already put the money into this stuff, and you're looking for money for future that doesn't exist. Focus on what we have now. You're not being good stewards with what you have here on today. Once you're good stewards with what you have today, taking care of what you have, wastewater treatment plant 1 is failing. It's overcapacitated. You guys failed by taking care of wastewater treatment plant 2, and all that's going to the westward expansion. Anyways.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, Tony.
Good afternoon, Tony Amaral. First of all, I want to commend staff. The presentation that was made last week, and they're hitting it again today, but last week was really, really insightful. Keep talking about 19,000 in the pipeline. If I'm not mistaken, I heard 13,000 roughly were actually approved. They know there's another 6,000-ish that are in some phase of approval. But let's keep in mind, 7,000 of those are infill lots that have been there since day one when Palm Coast opened the doors and said, welcome. It's been since the early 70s, and those still 7,000 aren't done. There was other projects listed from 2004. I forgot the exact numbers. I don't have them. I was trying to look it up. So we can't, yes, they're in the pipeline, but this project, this whole process is what will ensure that we have the capacity for the wastewater and for the water, because we are getting ahead of the curve. We are actually doing what we're supposed to do. Way back when, it seems like way back when, but earlier this year, when we had the impact fee increases and the rate increases, it was covering. Most of the projects were covered by impact fees. If I'm not mistaken, there were several plans that were fully funded, but there are certain things, 200 million was just for replacement and repair. We have a serious intrusion and infiltration issue in Palm Coast. The I&I that was discussed over and over and over again. These are issues that if we don't take care of, we will go over capacity. We will have issues at all the wastewater treatment plants because it's infrastructure that has not been handled through the years. It's infrastructure that should have been handled. Now that we have an actual utility director, I'm looking forward to actually seeing him come up with this plan for maintenance, because it comes down to maintaining. You can only maintain if it's funded. If the water has to get funded, it's funded by everyone. It's funded by impact fees in the front, which a lot of it was already, but it has to be funded through our fees at a reasonable rate, not an exorbitant rate to profit, a reasonable rate to cover these expenses, and for too long, it has not been. This plan is, I got to tell you, and I mentioned to staff, it is last week's presentation was probably one of the best presentations I have seen in this office in a long, long, long time, on how concise, how straightforward, and I believe had this plan been presented during the rate increase, it probably would have been accepted a lot better.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Ms. Chantel.
So we're talking about two things. We're talking about the water we drink and the water that is being reused. Just a thought. When our children were little, we would go every year to the beach, to the Outer Banks. And I remember one year we went to visit a water plant, and they were cleaning the seawater actually and using it, I'm pretty sure, as drinkable water. I mean, we're so close to the beach here. Would that be a possibility, use the seawater? And it's just a thought.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, Mr. Webb.
Mark Webb, Palm Coast. Great presentation, Peter. So I have two questions, and I'm not clear the direction that we're trying to go. There's capacity expansion based on growth. But there's also development of reducing the need for that capacity. As Tony was saying, and we've heard from Carl over and over again, we have a huge problem with water leaching into our wastewater system, manhole covers, PEP tanks, those kinds of things that we can control, we can improve. We can reduce the amount of water that's entering in to the system. Now, yes, we can spend millions of dollars to hold a big overflow tank. We can do things to capture that. But the money or the idea or the development of trying to reduce where it's coming from, I think has much more value to the growth of what we're doing. We need to have that conversation between both parties. Secondly, we're talking about potable water, which is the water coming into the house that we use, that we pay a lot for, and that we also try to manage and control. A lot of homes here in Palm Coast have supplemental irrigation wells. Those wells, and I just Googled it if you can believe AI, can be permitted to be used in the city to augment your gray water use. That's washing your flushing and those kind of things, which could be a method or an availability to reduce potable water. So we're talking about both sides of it. But I don't hear any conversations going on about how we in the city can be proactive, that we can reduce on the wastewater side or improve on the potable water side. The reason I know this, I lived for 2 years in a 40-foot motorhome traveling around the country. And I had and developed a osmosis system in my coach because you can't trust water coming out of a spigot out in New Mexico or in Mexico. All that water came through a filtration system, which I tested and was able to drink and use for gray water. I have a well in my house that for $10,000, I could put an osmosis system and use that water to reduce the impact of what the city is. So let's broaden our conversation. Let's ask some questions about how we can not worry too much about the capacity as we grow. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Any further comment? Public comment? Okay, I'll bring it back to Dodds. To answer your question, Ms. Chantel, desalination is a very expensive process. Am I correct?
I believe there was a study, wasn't there?
Yes, but we'd be more obligated to put in a reverse osmosis type of demineralization, which would be a little bit cheaper than desal, from what I understand.
All right. Thank you, sir. Any more comments from the dais?
Just to address Mr. Webb, in terms of I&I, I think a lot of the capital improvements that we have in that, a big chunk is the treatment plant, but a lot of the improvements are to that direction to try to reduce I&I because, as your point is, without the I&I, we're fine. It's the I&I that puts us over on wastewater. So, addressing that rather than we need 9 million gallons per day of capacity. No, we need to reduce that I&I during storm events. So the point is well taken, and that's, I think, captured in that capital improvement plan that was discussed as part of the rate increases back March, April timeframe. So we're working to address kind of both at the same time.
All right. Thank you, sir. Any further comments? No. Ms. Cook, call the vote.
Vice Mayor Pontieri? Councilmember Gambaro?
Yes.
Councilmember Miller?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Mayor Norris?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, we're moving on to J7, City Attorney.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to let council know lunch is here and available if you guys want to take a break or later on. Just wanted to give that information.
Does the council want to take a break and have some chow?
Well, this is going to be a thing.
We're going to be going a minute on these, so you guys want... You want to take 30 minutes? Is that good for you guys? 15? All right. We're going to adjourn for 15 minutes to fill our gullet.
There you go. This is going to be all of these. I think we can get